All right. Hi, everybody who's tuning in. Today I have the privilege and honor of interviewing Jennifer. She is a brilliant and passionate nutritionist, and we are going to talk about the gut and stress connection. So, Jennifer, my first question for you today is, what does it mean to rest and digest?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and thank you for the compliment. I'm passionate about what I do. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, we're talking 2,500 years ago, he's famous for saying, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. Most of us have heard of that, but another one he's famous for is all disease begins in the gut. Now, you know, that's a long time ago, but he is absolutely right, because you see, we have an autoimmune epidemic right now, and that's where that starts. It absolutely is triggered in the gut. So what does it mean to rest and digest? Well, before every meal, I make it a practice to do deep breathing. Just takes 3 minutes. I don't have much patience myself, so I've tracked on my Fitbit and found which version of deep breathing works, and this is the one that does it. So it's 4-7-8 breathing. So, but I'll get into that in a second. So what is rest and digest? Our brain doesn't know the difference between real and perceived threat. So if we've got our to-do list going on in our head and we're just thinking about, oh, I didn't get this done, or, you know, what am I going to do tomorrow? Our mind thinks that we're running from a tiger that's not really there. So our blood flow is more to our limbs. So you've heard of fight or flight. That's when you're you know, fleeing that tiger that's not there, whether it's mental or physical. And then there's rest and digest. So when you have your blood flowing to your extremities to get away from that tiger, it's not at your core. It is not, can't really see where I'm pointing here. It's not at your core, at your body, where your GI system is. So speeding up digestion, you're not getting the nutrients you need. So the next thing about rest and digest that is so important is chewing. I tell you what, I watch, many of my friends have been in the military, and I watch how fast they eat. And I understand in the military, you eat now or you just don't eat at all. But now they're retired. They don't need to do that anymore. But this applies to so many people, is if you scarf down your food, you're not creating surface area. And you want to think about it that way. You want to create as much surface area on your food as you can to be able to digest. And that's just going to slow you. If you try to, you know, chew a lot, that's going to calm you down and slow you down quite a bit there. But you want to, I think it was Paul Bragg that said this, you want to chew your smoothie and drink your foods. So we think about chewing our food well, but if you've ever had to gulp down a smoothie really fast, I bet you had some indigestion shortly after.
Yes.
Because chewing stimulates the digestive fluids, the hydrochloric acid is what it is, stimulates that. So if you don't even chew your smoothie, if you just drink it, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Likewise, you want to chew your food so well that you're able to drink your food.
That's great advice.
Yeah, so that's what rest and digest is all about.
All right. And you said you were going to tell us how you do deep breathing.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, and on my blog, I've got a lot of stuff that relates to all I'm talking about right now, but 4-7-8 breathing is you inhale for 4, and some people have you do more specific stuff, but this is the basics of it. I like easy stuff. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale through your mouth for 8. And if you just do that 3 times, that should lower your heart rate. I've gauged it, lowers mine by about 20 beats per minute. So that's significant when it comes to being in a state of rest. Now, there's some people who do 5-5-5 breathing. I've tried that, and that didn't do as good of a job. But you just have to find out what works for you. But 4-7-8 seems to be getting, like I said, the biggest bang for your 3 minutes that you have. I'm impatient and I don't like to deep breathe, but it's best for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so Jennifer, is there a connection between stress or anxiety and the gut?
Absolutely. There's multiple ways that this is connected. First of all, the bacteria in your gut, I am discovering, the more I research, can make you more stressed. It can affect your state of peace or state of stress. Likewise, the opposite applies. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the vagus nerve.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yes, that's getting a little more news lately. But vagus means wanderer, and the vagus nerve is what connects our gut to our brain. And it's interesting that they would, I mean, I'm not sure when they named it vagus nerve, really, but you know, when you look at pictures of how the intestines are connected to the vagus nerve, it's actually, I mean, it's almost kind of just got a bunch of fingers. It literally is wandering through your GI tract and connects to your brain. Now, the cool part is 90% of the messages that are going from your gut to your brain are going in that direction. They're going up to your brain. Only 10% are going from your brain to your gut.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that says a lot about it. And you also have to think, you know, it's not only that, but the foods that you eat affect your gut, affect the messages going up to your brain. So that's significant. So I've heard varying numbers. There's at least 100 million, possibly 500 million neurons in the gut. That's at least the amount of neurons you'd find in a cat's brain. So that's, I mean, you know, we've got most of our neurons are in our brain, but still that's significant. But the gut, the GI system is called the enteric nervous system. Something really cool about that is you get the autonomic nervous system, you've got the central nervous system. We don't ever talk about the ENS, enteric nervous system. That, if you severed believe it is, if you severed that nerve, if you severed the enteric nervous system from the brain, the enteric nervous system can function all on its own. So our gut will continue to digest, will continue to function all by itself. But anyway, that I'm a dork here, so let's not really here or there. But
no, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. So studies in mice have shown, as far as the relation of having a calm and a peace and our neural function, studies in mice have shown that those with a poor microbiome, or like if it was more of a sterile mouse, no microbiome, have shown that they have low levels of something called Bdnf, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And that has so much to do with learning and memory. And low levels of Bdnf are also associated with depression and anxiety. So big, you know, to do there about the microbiome and having just a piece about ourselves. And I do believe, as I've observed my health, I'm pretty sure when I've known that I was in a situation where my gut health was suffering, and I noticed how anxious and how much anxiety I had. I'm not somebody who is anxious or worried about anything. I have a pretty good sense about myself, but I would find myself meditating on unnecessary worries and just getting real tight. And I'm like, you know what? It wasn't that long ago that I had some antibiotics. I bet this has something to do with it. So, yeah. So let's see. The serotonin, the dopamine, and the GABA are 3 neurotransmitters that are produced largely in the gut. 90% of the serotonin, which is calm, it's what keeps us nice and happy. 90% of that is produced in the gut. Dopamine is in charge of motivation, and GABA is more for just relaxation, relaxing the muscles. Those are largely produced in the gut. Yeah, pretty cool.
That's fascinating.
I know, it's pretty neat. We've grown up all thinking that it's all up here in our brain, and
right.
But I mean, when you have a gut feeling, I mean, it's a real thing, right?
Oh, yes, I love that. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you feel like, oh, probably I don't feel right about this right now, that's 100%. You should listen to that. So another cool thing that I learned about, probiotic strains are now being developed to treat medical conditions. But in regards to anxiety and depression, I think it's Bifidus infantis is as effective as, let me see, I wrote it down on this message. Bifidus infantis is as effective as citalopram, which is a depression medication, antidepressive. It's as bifidus infantis as effective as citalopram. Pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool. And they're slowly but surely finding a correlation between autism and antibiotic use shortly after. See, when a child's microbiome is being developed in the first 1 to 2 years of life, it's really being established. But sometimes when these children get a hefty dose of antibiotics when they're still very, very young, that can kill off a lot of that good bacteria, and that reduces the levels, once again, of the Bdnf, which is going to start letting some of those autistic symptoms develop if that's going to happen.
Oh my goodness, so that's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, and you want to absolutely, if you're a new mother, or especially if you're pregnant, you want to absolutely, if there's a chance you might have a C-section, you absolutely, this can kind of get kind of gross, but it's what needs to be done. They will actually just kind of swab the mother and then kind of wipe that all over the baby's face and ears and everything. And there have been mothers who've had 2 children, one was done and one wasn't, and they said how much more strong the immune system was in the one that was inoculated. They were both C-section, but one inoculated. I think everybody knows what inoculated means. Inoculated means like when you're coming out the birth canal, you are being inoculated with bacteria from your mother to prepare you for that environment. So kids who are born C-section are often have these poor immune systems because they didn't get that. And then breastfeeding is another interesting thing I just learned. The sugars that are in breast milk actually act as a prebiotic for that bacteria in the mom and in the baby's gut.
Oh, nice.
So the breast milk is nurturing microbiome of the baby.
Right. Perfect. Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
I know you're a new, I don't know if you're a new mother, but you have a baby, right?
I am a new mom, so I'm soaking this all in. It's great information.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That's so cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, this is all very interesting. Okay, so I have to ask you, what are gut bugs and are they important?
Okay, so gut bugs are more than just bacteria. They include viruses, fungi, bugs, parasites. Even some people think parasites might not be such a bad thing anymore. But they inhabit our colon, our large intestine. They're not supposed to be that many in our small intestine, but that's a whole other topic that I'm not even going to go to. But they are little bugs that reside in our gut, and they are a large part of our immune system. They create vitamins for us. They create butyrate, which is what maintains a healthy gut lining. They create neuropeptides. There are at least 500 to 1,000, and I actually just heard earlier today a doctor say up to 30,000 different strains of bacteria in the gut.
Oh,
so
that's incredible.
I know. And people used to just say like, there's like 500 strains, the end. But it's so new. The whole field of the microbiome is so new. I'm sure that doctor that said 30,000 is more correct there. Yeah. So the really cool thing about how bacteria works and why it's important for us to eat like a lot of plant fiber foods is we've heard of prebiotics. I'm sure you've probably heard that term. Well, everybody knows probiotics is pretty popular now. Yeah. That's for life. Yeah. But prebiotics feed the good bugs. Feed the bugs, period, good or bad, but you want to feed the good bugs. But now you can actually buy prebiotics in a supplement form, but the best way is to just get fiber that we ourselves can't really break it down, but the gut bugs can. Now here's the cool part. This is what we talk about, a symbiotic relationship. We are more bacteria than we are human. Let's get that established. We're way more bacteria. But those bugs eat the food that we can't digest, and they basically literally poop out things called short chain fatty acids. And those are the things like the butyrate, the vitamins, the things. They create what we need to maintain health. They create proteins. I think I already said neuropeptides, just a lot of what it takes to have healthy brain function, to help calm and normal, the state of rest of the parasympathetic nervous system taking over, and as we should be.
Right. Jennifer, can you give us an example of something that we should be eating to help this all out?
Sure. Yeah. Pretty much any plant foods, any greens. There's one thing in particular. I'm not always a fan of like potatoes. Red skin potatoes are okay, but there's a gentleman that I work with. He's always pushing something called resistant starch. I hadn't heard that until I met him, but that's another way of saying prebiotics. But a perfect example is taking potatoes that have been cooked and then cooling them back down. We resist digesting those. Another thing is just like vegetables in general, anything that's got some insoluble and soluble fiber in it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So eat your veggies.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Do so. And absolutely, hopefully 5 to 7 servings a day.
Awesome.
So there's a really cool study on mice that were done. There's a human one and a mouse that were done. It wasn't a human study. You don't study these kind of things on humans. But on the mouse, they had 2 bunches of mice. One that had basically no microbiome at all. And they had a little kind of like a stair-step thing. And the mice that didn't have much of a microbiome hesitated for several minutes to step down. The mice that had a significant healthy microbiome, they stepped right down, no problem at all, immediately. Then they switched. They gave antibiotics to the mice that had the healthy microbiome, and they basically transplanted some of the bacteria from the gut of the good microbiome to the ones that didn't even have it, and the results switched. So the mice that showed, courage and were okay to step down were now hesitating. And then the ones that would never step down then stepped down immediately, just by changing their gut bugs. That's all they did.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and then another cool one. I just read about this yesterday. For some reason, a mom was taking. Oh, well, first of all, this might gross some people out, but they do something called fecal microbial transplant. That's exactly what it sounds like. Taking somebody with a healthy microbiome's poop and putting it in. I think a lot of times they just put it in a pill and swallow it, and you're getting it. But so this mom took a transplant from her daughter, and the daughter was apparently overweight, and the mom had never struggled with weight. But then the mom started gaining weight out of nowhere after that. That's the only thing that changed. Yeah. So a lot of the people who suffer with obesity might be having a poor microbiome health. Interesting. Yeah, so that's really super cool. And there's a study. The first study done on this was it's fairly well known. A Gouty mice, and you see this obese mice and this little skinny mice, and they did the exact same thing. They switched them around, and the mouse got skinny, and the mouse got fat once they switched them. Pretty cool. But the thing that I would want to emphasize is that stress itself, just being under stress, can negatively affect the health of the microbiome. So you want to do, my favorite thing to address stress would be, like I said, I don't have patience for deep breathing, but I know how good it is, and I know how quickly it calms me down. That's one of the first things I would do to get people to address the stress. And I'm actually in the middle of making a program for people to help deal with their stress in 3 easy and, best of all, cost-free ways. So if you refer to my website, and honestly, on my blog, I have so many different articles. Some of them seem to repeat themselves, but there are different topics saying similar things. But you can see a lot of my suggestions and things to follow through with all the things I'm telling you on my different blog articles, and that's at Digestive Detectives, that's plural, digestivedetectives.com.
Perfect. And your blog is on your website, so that's where we're going to find all your articles?
Yeah. You just drop down, and I've got tons of different stuff that I've written on there, and even my most popular blog post is smoothies, how to make a smoothie.
They are all the rage these days.
Yeah, that's about the only way. Some of my clients, they're like, oh, I don't want to eat vegetables. And I say, can you do a smoothie? Well, I guess.
Yeah. And it's amazing how you can hide the taste of vegetables in the smoothie. I can attest to that.
Yeah, it's pretty, you can add some crazy stuff in there. And when I wrote this blog post that I'm talking about, I just decided to take my smoothie and pick it apart and, write about what I put in there. And, like, I mean, for example, aloe vera from the aloe vera leaf is so good because it's a viscous food, like chia seeds, anything that's going to become gelatinous. That's why bone broth is so good for your gut.
Yes.
I put aloe vera from my aloe vera plant straight into my smoothie, and I don't even know it. Now I'm going to eat aloe vera gel by itself? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, perfect. That's a great idea too.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's the gut is super important, and we're just starting to understand how important it is.
Yeah, you have opened my mind. I didn't know half of this stuff. I didn't realize that so much was tied to the gut, which is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. You are obviously passionate. It is awesome to listen to you talk.
Well, thank you.
Anybody watching this, go check out Jennifer's site at digestivedetectives.com and drop her a line. She knows her stuff. She's a fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And thank you, Jennifer, for coming on and letting me interview you today.
Thank you, Teresa, very much. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.